The moment the pen fell, I saw something I was never meant to see. Jessica, our office's resident domestic goddess, the woman everyone admired, was I'm just a regular guy in the marketing department. Our company is a distributor for high-end beauty brands, so about 80% of the staff are women. I was one of the few guys, a lonely green leaf in a sea of flowers. To be honest, I kind of enjoyed it.
Leo, could you run this report over to accounting for me?
Jessica's voice floated over from the next cubicle, as gentle as a spring breeze. You got it, on my way, I said, dropping what I was doing to take the folder from her. Jessica Collins, 35, was our department's administrative manager. She was the undisputed office beauty queen, 5'8", with a figure that could still pass for 20-something. Her husband was some hotshot exec at an international firm who traveled constantly, and they had a son in elementary school. In everyone's eyes, Jessica was the gold standard, the kind of wife you see in movies, graceful, elegant, and incredibly competent. I was heading to accounting when Dave from sales caught up with me.
Hey, running another errand for Queen Jessica,
He said with a wink.
You lucky bastard, getting to share an office with her.
Shut up, man, I grumbled, giving him a light punch on the shoulder, but I couldn't help the small spark of pride I felt. Our company had two-person offices, and by some stroke of luck, I'd been paired with Jessica. It was a small, glass-walled space, maybe 150 square feet, with two L-shaped desks facing each other and a narrow aisle in between. When I got back, Jessica was organizing files. She was wearing a cream-colored knit sweater with a black pencil skirt and sheer black stockings. Her hair was loosely pinned up, revealing the pale, elegant curve of her neck. I noticed the tiny pearl studs on her earlobes, shimmering as she moved.
All set.
She asked without looking up. Yep, Brenda in accounting said she'll get you the receipt this afternoon. I sat back down, stealing a few extra glances. Jessica always had this incredible scent, not a heavy perfume, but more like clean laundry dried in the sun, mixed with a hint of expensive moisturizer. Every time I got close to her, I found myself taking a deeper breath. At noon, the office started to clear out for lunch. What is for lunch today, Jess? I asked, shutting down my computer. She stretched, the movement outlining every curve of her body.
I packed a lunch. Too lazy to go out, you?
I'm grabbing tacos with Mike from it, I said, standing up. Want me to bring you back a coffee?
No, thanks.
She said with a warm smile.
I'm going to try and catch a nap after I eat. I've got a big meeting this afternoon.
I nodded and left. Jessica had this habit of setting up a small folding cot for a quick siesta during her lunch break. She kept it tucked behind her desk, where it was hidden from the doorway. When I got back from lunch, the office was dead quiet. I pushed the door open gently and saw that Jessica hadn't set up the cot today. Instead, she was asleep at her desk, her head pillowed on her arm. Her long hair cascaded over her shoulder, revealing one porcelain cheek. Her legs, sheathed in black nylon, were pressed together, her heels kicked off neatly under the desk. I crept back to my own desk, trying not to wake her. I turned on my computer and idly started fiddling with a ballpoint pen, spinning it between my fingers. The only sounds were the low hum of the air conditioner and Jessica's soft, even breathing. Click! The pen slipped from my grasp, hit the floor, and rolled under Jessica's desk. Crap! I muttered, bending down to get it. And as I reached for the pen, my blood turned to ice. Tucked between Jessica's slightly parted thighs was a small, pink, strangely shaped object. It looked like a tiny remote, and one end was blinking with a faint blue light, winking in and out of view as her body shifted almost imperceptibly. My brain went blank. What was that? A toy? A massager? No, it couldn't be. This was Jessica, the most dignified woman in the entire company. I froze, my hand hovering in midair, my eyes locked on the object. Her thighs shifted again with some unconscious movement, and the blue light pulsed, as if mocking my shock. Just then, Jessica let out a soft moan, her body arching slightly. That's when I noticed the wireless earbuds in her ears, which had been hidden by her hair. Her breathing had quickened, a faint blush was creeping up her cheeks, and her lips were slightly parted. I yanked my hand back, forgetting the pen entirely, and nearly slammed my head on the underside of the desk as I shot upright. My heart was hammering against my ribs, and my palms were slick with sweat. Jessica? In the office? During her lunch break? My entire perception of her shattered into a million pieces. This woman, this paragon of wifely and motherly virtue, was secretly. My eyes darted back toward her. The little pink device was still there, shifting with the gentle friction of her movements. Suddenly, her eyes fluttered open. Our gazes met. Time stopped. Her eyes went from hazy to clear to pure, unadulterated panic in the space of a second. She bolted upright, slamming her legs together as one hand shot down to cover her skirt.
When did you get back?
She stammered, her voice trembling. Just now, I stuttered, my face burning. My pen fell. I was just getting it. The color drained from Jessica's face, then flooded back in a crimson tide. She frantically smoothed her hair and clothes, her eyes darting everywhere but at me.
I'm going to the restroom.
She grabbed her purse and practically ran out of the office. The moment the door clicked shut, I let out a massive breath and collapsed into my chair. The image was seared into my brain, Jessica's dazed eyes, her parted lips, and I shook my head, trying to banish the thought, but my body had already started to react. Damn it. I cursed under my breath, shifting uncomfortably in my seat. 10 minutes later, Jessica returned. She had reapplied her makeup and fixed her hair. She looked composed, but she refused to meet my eyes.
Do you have the presentation materials ready for the afternoon meeting?
She asked, trying for a normal tone, but her voice was an octave higher than usual. Almost done, I mumbled, staring intently at my screen. The next few days were excruciatingly awkward. On the surface, everything was normal, but whenever we were alone, the air felt thick enough to chew. Jessica stopped napping in the office, and I did my best to avoid eye contact. Until the incident in the storeroom. It was a Thursday afternoon. Jessica asked me to go with her down to the basement storeroom to find some product samples.
For the spring collection launch.
She explained as we walked.
I think they're on the top shelf in the back.
The storeroom was dimly lit, packed with tall metal shelves that created narrow aisles, wide enough for only one person to pass. Jessica walked ahead of me, her heels clicking smartly on the concrete floor. She was wearing a light, gray skirt suit today, the skirt a little shorter than usual, showing off her long, stocking-clad legs.
This should be the box,
she said, standing on her toes to reach a cardboard box on the highest shelf. I watched the lines of her body tense and stretch, and I swallowed hard, the image from the other day flashing in my mind. Here, I'll get it. I stepped forward, my chest brushing against her back as I reached up for the box. The moment I had it in my hands, Jessica turned around, and suddenly we were face to face, inches apart. The storeroom was so quiet I could hear her breathing.
Careful,
she whispered, her hand instinctively coming up to rest on my chest. In that instant, all my rational thought evaporated. I looked down at her slightly parted lips, smelled that familiar, intoxicating scent, and felt all the blood in my body rush south. Jessica must have sensed the change in me. Her face flushed, but she didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers tightened their grip on my shirt. Jessica, I said, my voice hoarse. Her eyelashes fluttered. Her breathing grew shallow. We stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity, and then...
Jess, are you two down there?
It was Karen from HR, calling from the storeroom entrance. We sprang apart like we'd been electrocuted. Jessica quickly smoothed her hair while I pretended to inspect the contents of the box.
Found it.
Jessica called out, her voice a little shaky.
We're coming right up.
We waited until Karen's footsteps faded before either of us moved. Jessica shot me a complicated look, then turned and walked quickly toward the door. I followed, noticing that the tips of her ears were still bright red. From that day on, the dynamic between us shifted completely. We were still colleagues on the surface, but whenever we were alone, a subtle, electric tension filled the room. Jessica started creating little moments of contact, her fingers brushing mine when she handed me a file, the hem of her skirt grazing my leg as she walked by, the soft curve of her breast pressing against my shoulder when she leaned over to look at my screen. A week later, Jessica told me,
I have a client meeting in Milwaukee next Tuesday. I need you to come with me.
"Just the two of us?" I asked, unable to keep the hope out of my voice. She nodded, a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips.
Yep, it is a day trip. The train leaves at 7 a.m.
The morning of the trip, I got to Union Station 20 minutes early. It was a chilly spring morning, and I paced around the Great Hall to stay warm. Jessica arrived right on time, wearing a chic beige trench coat over a V-neck sweater and a pencil skirt. She looked younger, more stylish than she did at the office.
Morning.
She said with a smile, a light cloud of perfume enveloping me. The train wasn't crowded, and we found a pair of seats near the back. Jessica took the window, and I sat on the aisle. As the train pulled out of the station, she slipped off her coat, draping it over her lap. I saw then that her sweater was sleeveless, and I caught my first glimpse of her bare arms. I also noticed she wasn't wearing stockings today. Her bare legs seemed to glow in the soft morning light. "Cold?" I asked, my throat suddenly dry.
A little.
She whispered, pulling the coat higher up on her legs. Whether it was intentional or not, her arm was pressed against mine. I could feel the warmth of her skin through my shirt. Once we were out of the city, Jessica seemed to get sleepy. Her head began to nod, and finally, she leaned over and rested it on my shoulder. I sat ramrod straight, inhaling the faint scent of her shampoo. After a minute, I felt her hand come to rest gently on my thigh. My heart started pounding like a drum. Her hand was warm, her fingertips tracing lazy, almost imperceptible circles on the denim. I glanced down at her. Her eyes were closed, and a tiny smile played on her lips, as if she were really asleep. But her hand was slowly, deliberately moving higher. "Jessica," I whispered, my voice raspy. She didn't answer, but the movement of her fingers became more insistent. I could feel the heat pooling in my groin, my breathing turning ragged. Just then, the train lurched to a sudden stop. Jessica jolted awake, snatching her hand back. We both turned to stare out the window, our faces burning, but the damage was done. The front of my jeans was now sporting a very obvious bulge. We didn't speak for the rest of the trip, but the air between us crackled with unspoken promises. We finished with the client by 4 in the afternoon. On the train back to Chicago, Jessica turned to me and said,
I booked a hotel.
"What? I thought we were heading back tonight?" I said, confused. She looked at me, her eyes shining.
I lied.
The hotel was a 4-star boutique downtown. The moment we stepped into the room on the 18th floor, Jessica pushed me against the wall and kissed me. Her lips were softer than I ever could have imagined, tasting of cherry lip balm. I clumsily kissed her back, unsure where to put my hands.
Relax.
She murmured against my ear, her warm breath sending shivers down my spine.
Just follow my lead.
The rest was a blur. Jessica led the way from the door to the bed, shedding our clothes piece by piece.
Like what you see.
She purred, her eyes dark with desire. All I could do was nod, completely speechless. She smiled, then reached into her purse and pulled out a familiar object. That little pink toy with its blinking blue light.
You already got a peek last time.
She said, biting her lower lip.
Now, you can get a closer look.
We barely slept that night. It was like a switch had been flipped, and Jessica revealed a side of herself I never knew existed, passionate, bold, and unbelievably skilled. We made use of every corner of that room, from the bed to the floor, from the shower to the floor-to-ceiling window. The next morning, I woke up sore and exhausted. Jessica was already dressed and putting on her makeup.
You're awake.
She said, her eyes meeting mine in the mirror.
Train leaves at 9. We've got an hour.
I just stared at her, unable to reconcile the wild woman from last night with the polished, professional one before me now. On the way back to the office, Jessica was once again her graceful, composed self, as if nothing had happened. But just before we parted ways, she leaned in and whispered in my ear,
See you in the office.
After Milwaukee, our office affair officially began. On the surface, we were just manager and subordinate. But when no one was around, Jessica would lock the door for a stolen kiss. During lunch, her folding cot found a new purpose. Business trips became the thing I looked forward to most. Of course, it all had to be a complete secret. The thrill and the risk of our relationship made every day an adventure. I had no idea how long it would last, but for now I was going to enjoy every second of this unexpected perk of the job. After all, whoever would have guessed what the elegant Mrs. Collins was really like behind closed doors? 3 days after we got back from Milwaukee, the office door was locked at lunchtime, something that never happened.
Jessica, this is too risky.
I gasped, my hands braced on either side of her on the narrow cot. The little bed, usually reserved for naps, was now groaning under a weight and stress it was never designed for. Jessica's fingers trailed down my back, her nails lightly scratching my shirt.
Shh. Everyone in admin is out to lunch.
The AC was blasting, but I was sweating. She was wearing a white silk blouse, now pushed up above her chest, revealing a black lace bra. Her hair was down, spread across the cot's pale blue sheet like spilled ink.
What if someone knocks?
I tried to control my movements, terrified by the squeaking protest of the cot's frame. She suddenly covered my mouth with her hand, her eyes shining with a dangerous light.
Then, let them listen.
Just then, the office landline rang. We both froze, as if someone had hit pause. The shrill ring echoed in the silent room.
Don't answer it.
She whispered, her fingers digging into my shoulders. The phone stopped after 6 rings. We both let out a breath, but before we could resume, my cell phone started vibrating in the pocket of my discarded pants.
Damn it!
I cursed, forced to pull away and fish it out. It was Mike from IT, probably asking about the afternoon meeting. Jessica burst out laughing, a full-bodied laugh that made her entire body shake, the sight of which nearly made me lose my mind.
Leo, you look so adorable right now.
She reached up and wiped a bead of sweat from my chin, her eyes impossibly tender. Watching her laugh, I felt a strange new emotion creep in. It wasn't just lust anymore. It was something softer and far more dangerous. My phone buzzed again. I silenced it, leaned down, and kissed her. This time, I didn't care about the noise from the cot, or who might be outside the door. Afterward, we spent 10 minutes erasing the evidence. Jessica fixed her makeup in a compact mirror while I desperately tried to smooth the wrinkles from my shirt. After the cot was folded away, she handed me a cup of coffee, her fingers tapping lightly on the ceramic.
We have to go to Lake Geneva on Friday,
She said, sipping her own coffee without looking at me.
This time, it is 2 nights.
My hand jerked, spilling a few drops on my pants.
Still, just the two of us?
Mhim.
She finally met my gaze, a wicked smile playing on her lips.
I booked a suite at that resort on the water, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows.
My throat went dry. Floor-to-ceiling windows. I knew exactly what that meant.
Okay.
Was all I could manage, my mind already racing with possibilities. Jessica leaned in close, her voice a low whisper.
And this time, I'm packing some special things.
Her breath tickled my ear, sending a shiver through me.
And wear that blue button down. I like you in that one.
How did she know that was my favorite shirt? Before I could ask, she had returned to her desk, all business again, as if the woman who had just been moaning beneath me was a completely different person. Friday morning, I was waiting for her at the Amtrak station. She was 5 minutes late, rushing toward me with a small rolling suitcase.
Sorry, dropping Jake at school took longer than I thought,
She said, slightly out of breath. She was wearing a navy blue dress with a neckline that was both classy and alluring. A delicate silver chain with a small heart pendant rested in the hollow of her throat. On the train, we sat close as she showed me the client brief on her tablet. Her perfume was different today, richer, with a musky bass note that was driving me crazy.
This client, Mr. Wallace, is a tough one.
she said, her long, manicured fingers tapping the screen.
There were some issues on the last project.
I tried to focus on the brief, but strands of her hair kept brushing against my cheek. Every time the train swayed, her shoulder would bump against mine. We'd pull apart, just an inch, before slowly drifting back together. 2 hours later, we arrived. As we walked out of the station, Jessica slipped her arm through mine as naturally as if we were a real couple. The simple gesture sent a jolt of warmth through me. The resort was even more luxurious than the hotel in Milwaukee. When Jessica was checking us in, I noticed the front desk clerk giving us a curious look. Jessica was completely unfazed, signing the paperwork with a serene smile, her profile looking like a painting under the lobby's soft lights. In the elevator, the moment the doors closed, she pushed me against the mirrored wall and kissed me, deep and hungry.
I've missed this.
She murmured against my lips, a world away from the composed manager I knew. Our suite was on the 28th floor. The second I walked in, I understood her emphasis on the windows. An entire wall was glass, offering a breathtaking panorama of the lake, bathing the room in golden afternoon light.
Like it?
She asked, dropping her bag. I just nodded, my throat tight. She smiled, walked over, and began unbuttoning my shirt.
Shower first, then. I want to see you in the sunlight.
The bathroom had a frosted glass wall. As I showered, I could see her silhouette moving around the room, unpacking. The sound of the water muffled everything, but my imagination was running wild. When I walked out, hair still damp, the sight in front of me made me stop dead. Jessica had changed into a black lace lingerie set, far more daring than anything I had seen on her before. She was standing in front of the window, the sunlight filtering through the delicate fabric, outlining every perfect curve of her body.
Come here,
she said, holding out her hand. For the next few hours, we explored every inch of that suite. In front of the window, with the world at our feet, in a massive marble shower. By early evening, we were starving. Jessica ordered room service, then pulled a small pouch from her suitcase.
For you,
she said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. I opened it. Inside was a black silk tie, but it was longer than a normal one, with small metal clasps at the ends.
What is this for?
Jessica bit her lip.
Yo, see.
After dinner, she had me sit on the edge of the bed and use the tie to bind my wrists.
Jessica.
I was nervous, but mostly thrilled. She straddled my lap, her fingers tracing a path over my chest.
Tonight. I'm in control.
Her voice was a low, sultry purr I'd never heard before. That night, I saw a whole new side of her, dominant, creative, and utterly in charge. When I was finally lying exhausted on the bed, she curled up against me, suddenly quiet and still.
Leo.
Her voice was so soft, it was almost a whisper.
Do you think I'm a bad woman?
I froze, looking down at her. In the dim glow of the bedside lamp, her eyes looked huge, filled with a vulnerability I'd never seen.
Of course not,
I said, pulling her closer.
Why would you ask that?
She just shook her head.
No reason, just a thought.
She quickly changed the subject.
After the meeting tomorrow, want to walk around the town. I heard it is beautiful at night.
I agreed, but that strange feeling was back. The sense that this was more than just a fling for her, that there were depths to her I hadn't even begun to understand. The client meeting the next day went smoothly. That evening, we strolled through the quaint downtown. Jessica wore a simple, elegant dress, and with her arm linked through mine, she looked completely at peace. She bought me a dark blue cashmere scarf from a small boutique, wrapping it around my neck herself, her eyes as soft as the fabric. On the way back to the resort, she said,
The company's anniversary gala is next month.
Yeah, at the Drake, right? I replied, my fingers still stroking the new scarf. Jessica stopped and turned to face me.
I want to play a game.
What kind of game?
Her eyes glittered under the streetlights.
Let's pretend we're strangers, that we're meeting for the first time, at the gala.
I understood immediately. My throat tightened.
You mean In front of everyone?
Mm-hmm.
She leaned in, her warm breath on my ear.
You can be an auditor from corporate. I'll be the department manager assigned to host you. Imagine it. Everyone's there, but only we know the truth.
The idea was insane and unbelievably hot. I nodded, feeling a rush of heat pool in my stomach. On the night of the gala, Jessica was a vision in a backless, wine-red gown, her hair in an elegant updo, wearing the pearl necklace I'd secretly left in her desk drawer for her birthday last week. As planned, I played the part of Mr. Carter from the corporate office, in a sharp suit and wire-rimmed glasses.
A pleasure to meet you. I'm Jessica Collins, from marketing.
She said, extending a perfectly manicured hand, her expression flawlessly professional. I took her hand, feeling her pinky finger give mine a tiny, secret squeeze.
Leo Carter, the pleasure's all mine, Miss Collins.
We played our dangerous game all night. Under the watchful eyes of our colleagues, she'd brush her fingers against my hand while passing a drink. On the dance floor, her body would press against mine for a fraction of a second too long. In a quiet corner, she'd lean in close, pretending not to hear me, her breath ghosting across my neck. The most intense moment came in the hallway outside the restrooms. She'd excused herself to powder her nose, and I followed. In a blind spot from the security cameras, she pulled me into an alcove, her hand immediately sliding down to the front of my pants. Our hearts hammered in unison. Someone could walk by at any second, which only made it more electrifying.
Jessica, someone's coming!
I warned, my breath catching. She ignored me.
Say my name.
She commanded, nibbling on my earlobe.
Jessica.
The word had barely left my lips when we heard the approaching click of heels. We sprang apart. Jessica pretended to fix her hair while I stared at my phone. It was Karen from HR. She gave us a strange look.
Leo, Jessica, what are you two doing back here?
Just getting some air?
Elite,
Discussing the gala logistics.
Jessica said at the same time. Karen looked at us suspiciously, but moved on. We waited until she was gone, then let out a shared, shaky breath and started to laugh.
That was close,
I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. Jessica's eyes were shining.
Wasn't it thrilling?
I had to admit it was. After the gala, our affair entered a new, more reckless phase. We became bolder in the office. Jessica would tap her foot against my leg under the table during meetings. She'd accidentally drop a pen and give me a show as she bent to retrieve it. But I also started noticing things. Sometimes she'd stare at her phone, a dark cloud passing over her face. Sometimes she'd push me away, claiming a headache or too much work. A few times, my texts went unanswered for hours. Then, one Friday in early March, she called in sick. I sent her a text, asking if she was okay. She didn't reply until that evening.
Richard's home early from his trip. Might be hard to get in touch for a few days.
Seeing the name Richard felt like a punch to the gut. I knew she was married, of course, but she never talked about him. Now, his sudden presence in our world filled me with a jealousy I'd never felt before. Over the weekend, I obsessively checked her Instagram, but there was nothing. Monday morning, I got to the office early, anxiously waiting to see her. She arrived on time, looking tired. She was wearing a turtleneck and slacks, far more conservative than her usual style.
Morning,
She said curtly, and immediately buried herself in her work. We barely spoke. At lunch, I finally got her alone.
Jess, are you okay?
She looked up, her eyes guarded.
Fine. Just tired.
I hesitated, then asked the question that had been eating at me.
Your husband, he
has been transferred back to the States.
She cut me off, her voice flat.
He won't be traveling much anymore.
The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She looked at me, then reached out and touched my cheek.
Don't overthink it, Leo. Nothing has to change between us.
But how could it not? At 3 o'clock that afternoon, the office door opened. A man in an expensive suit stood there, dangling a set of car keys. He was in his 40s, handsome and impeccably fit, with an air of effortless authority.
Jess, I'm here to pick you up.
He said, his voice a low baritone. Jessica shot to her feet, her face pale.
What are you doing up here? I said I'd meet you downstairs.
I wanted to see where you work.
His eyes swept the room and landed on me.
And who is this?
My colleague, Leo Carter.
Jessica said, her voice tight.
Leo, this is my husband, Richard Pierce.
I stood and shook his hand. His grip was like iron. He radiated a confidence that bordered on arrogance.
Jessica's mentioned you.
He said, smiling, but his eyes were sharp, analytical, like he was trying to see right through me.
Her indispensable right-hand man.
I managed a weak smile. She is a great mentor. Richard nodded, then turned back to Jessica.
Let's go. Mom made her famous lasagna.
Jessica gathered her things. At the door, she glanced back at me. Her expression was a heartbreaking mix of apology, longing, and something else I couldn't decipher. After they left, I sank into my chair, feeling completely drained. The scent of Richard's cologne lingered in the air, a suffocating reminder of his presence. He and Jessica had a life, a home, a child, and I was just her office affair. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica.
Meet me at our spot tomorrow at noon. We need to talk.
Our spot was a small, quiet coffee shop near the office. I stared at the message, a knot of dread and anticipation tightening in my stomach. Looking out the window at the setting sun, I was forced to confront a terrifying truth. This wasn't just about the thrill anymore. I was in love with Jessica Collins. 3. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop half an hour early.
The usual booth.
The owner asked with a knowing wink.
Miss Collins isn't here yet.
I nodded and followed her to the secluded booth in the back. The place was called The Nook, hidden in an alley behind our office building. It had a cozy, old-world charm that made it perfect for our secret meetings. I ordered a black coffee and waited, my anxiety mounting with every tick of the clock on the wall. At 12:15, the booth's curtain was pushed aside, and Jessica slipped in. She was wearing a hat and sunglasses, her face pale and drawn.
Have you been waiting long?
She asked, her voice hushed. I shook my head. Are you okay? She didn't answer until she had checked that we were truly alone. She cradled her coffee cup in her hands, her knuckles white.
He knows,
she said, her voice barely a whisper. My stomach dropped. Knows about us?
Not everything.
She said with a bitter smile.
He saw a text notification from you on my phone. The message was innocent, but he got suspicious.
A cold sweat broke out on my back. And? I asked, dreading the answer. Jessica stared out the window.
He pulled my phone records, my credit card statements, even the GPS history from my car. He found the train ticket receipts from our trip to Milwaukee.
My heart sank. That trip had been a complete fabrication. There was no client. What did he do to you? I asked, noticing for the first time that she was cradling her left wrist. She hesitated, then slowly pushed up her sleeve. A dark, ugly bruise circled her wrist, the distinct shape of fingers pressed violently into her skin. Son of a bitch! I shot to my feet, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. He hit you!
Sheesh!
Jessica pulled her sleeve down, glancing around nervously.
He didn't hit me. We were arguing. He just grabbed me too hard.
She looked down, her voice small.
He has a temper.
I stood there, shaking with a rage I had never felt before. That polished, successful man was an abuser, and she was defending him. Jessica, you can't. My voice was hoarse. You have to.
Do what? Divorce him.
She looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears.
Leo, you don't understand. We have a child, a mortgage, friends, and his family.
She added with a humorless laugh.
His father is a federal judge. His uncle is on the city council. In this town, he is untouchable. He could make sure I lose my job, my son, everything.
I was speechless. What could I, a junior marketing associate, do against a man with that kind of power? The silence in the booth was suffocating. So, what now? I finally asked. She took a deep breath.
He told me he is hiring a private investigator to track my calls, my movements, everything.
She met my eyes.
We have to stop for a while.
Stop. The word felt like a physical blow. I knew this couldn't last, but I never imagined it would end like this. Okay. I heard myself say, my voice raw. I understand. She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her skin was ice cold.
It is not over. It is just a pause until the heat is off.
I looked at her hand, remembering how it felt on my skin, and now saw only its trembling fragility. Jessica, I said, using her name outside the office for the first time. Have you ever thought about what happens to us in the long run? She flinched.
I haven't thought that far ahead.
I have, I said, squeezing her hand. And it is not just sex for me.
Don't.
She whispered, pulling her hand away as if burned.
Leo, please don't. This was just an affair. A fun, exciting escape, that is all.
Her words were a slap in the face. All those intimate moments, the shared laughter, the vulnerability, was it all just a game to her? I get it, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. She glanced at her watch.
I have to go.
She stood, hesitated, then leaned down and gave me a feather-light kiss on the forehead.
Take care of yourself.
For the next 2 weeks, the office was a frozen hell. Jessica was all business, avoiding any and all private conversation. Worse, I noticed Karen from HR hovering around our office far more than usual, her beady eyes darting between us. On Thursday, I overheard her in the break room talking to someone from accounting.
I know, right? Jessica Collins, of all people.
Are you serious? Her husband actually came in and requested the security footage from last month?
Yup. All that time she pretends to be so perfect turns out.
My coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. Karen poked her head out, a smug smile on her face when she saw me.
Hoops, Leo, careful now.
She said pointedly.
Some things are just too hot to handle.
My hand shook as I cleaned up the mess. Security footage? Had he seen us? All those stolen moments. Back at my desk, I glanced at Jessica. She was staring at her screen, but her face was ashen. I noticed she was wearing a turtleneck again, despite the warmth of the office. Peeking out from the collar was the faint edge of a bruise. Just before 5, I got an email from HR. A meeting tomorrow morning regarding my probationary performance review. I've been at the company for 1.5 years. This was clearly a pretext. I looked at Jessica. Her phone lit up. I caught a glimpse of the sender's name, Richard, before she quickly silenced it. The meeting was a kangaroo court. My boss, Mr. Harrison, was there, along with a stern-faced woman from corporate HR.
Leo,
Harrison began.
the company has been made aware of certain rumors concerning you and Miss Collins.
I feigned ignorance, but my palms were sweating.
There have been reports of an inappropriate level of intimacy,
The HR woman said, consulting a file.
locked doors during lunch hours, unprofessional conduct on business trips. One colleague even reported hearing disturbing sounds from your office.
I knew it had to be Karen. My face was on fire. That is ridiculous. Jessica is my manager. We have a professional relationship,
Is that so?
Harrison said.
Then why were you seen in a compromising position with her at the anniversary gala?
It was a misunderstanding, I said, my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. She'd had too much to drink, and I was helping her to a quiet place to sit down. They grilled me for an hour. In the end, the HR woman delivered the verdict.
Company policy strictly forbids relationships between managers and their subordinates. We will be conducting a full investigation. In the meantime, I suggest you watch yourself.
When I left the meeting, Jessica was waiting for me around the corner.
How did it go?
She asked, her eyes filled with a desperate anxiety. I told her everything. Her face fell.
My promotion review is next week.
She whispered.
This is going to kill it.
I felt a fresh wave of guilt. I'm so sorry,
It is not your fault.
she said, shaking her head.
My husband came to the office yesterday. He met with Harrison and with Karen.
So it was him. He was systematically destroying her career. That weekend was a blur of cheap whiskey and self-pity. Then, a text from Jessica.
Company fundraiser Wednesday night. You have to be there. Important.
The fundraiser was at the Drake in the Gold Coast Ballroom. It felt less like a party and more like my own execution. I wore my best suit and the tie she'd given me. Jessica was standing with the executive team, a goddess in a dark green gown. Richard was by her side, schmoozing with the CEO. Suddenly, Dave from sales slapped me on the back.
Dude, check this out,
he said, shoving his phone in my face. It was a video, grainy but unmistakable. It was Jessica and me, kissing in the hotel elevator in Milwaukee.
It is all over the company group chat.
Dave whispered.
Her husband got the hotel security footage. He is.
I didn't hear the rest. I was pushing through the crowd, heading straight for them. Richard was at the podium, giving a speech.
And I especially want to thank my wife, Jessica, for all her hard work,
he said, his voice dripping with false sincerity.
Even when that work requires her to pull an all-nighter away from home.
A few people snickered.
But she is always a devoted wife and mother.
Jessica stood there, smiling, but her hands were clenched into fists at her sides.
And tonight,
Richard continued,
I have a very special gift for her.
An assistant brought out a beautifully wrapped box. Jessica took it. When she opened it and saw what was inside, all the color drained from her face. It was a black lace lingerie set, identical to the one she'd worn in Lake Geneva. A wave of whispers and gasps went through the room. She was being publicly stripped bare, humiliated in front of everyone we knew. My blood boiled. I started to move forward, but then she looked up and her eyes found mine across the room. It was a look that pleaded, warned, and commanded all at once. Then she smiled, a perfect, serene smile. She closed the box, said something to Richard that made him laugh, and raised her glass to the crowd as if she were a queen accepting their adoration. In that moment, I understood the depth of her strength and the totality of my own powerlessness. As the band started to play, Richard led her to the dance floor. I turned and walked out of the ballroom, my heart in pieces. Outside, in the cool night air, my phone buzzed. It was Jessica.
Tomorrow, noon, the Nook. We're ending this.
I stared at the city lights, knowing she was right. It was time to end it, one way or another. For I was at the Nook by 11:30. The scene from last night played on a loop in my head, Jessica holding that box, her face a perfect mask of composure. I chugged my glass of ice water, trying to douse the fire in my gut. When she slipped into the booth, I barely recognized her. No makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing a plain white t-shirt and jeans. She looked exhausted and raw, but more real than I'd ever seen her.
Sorry, I'm late,
she said, her voice hoarse. Don't worry about it. She cut me off before I could say anything else, pushing a manila envelope across the table.
Look at this first.
I opened it. Inside was a stack of photos and medical reports. The first photo showed Jessica in a hospital gown, a massive purple bruise surrounding her left eye, her lips split open. The date on it was from 5 years ago. I flipped to the next one, a burn mark on her arm, a pattern of bruises across her back. Each photo was dated, spanning 7 years of marriage.
He has always been like this,
she said, her voice eerily calm.
It started the second year we were married.
I felt sick. Why? Didn't you leave? She pulled one last document from the envelope, a prenuptial agreement. The terms were draconian. If she initiated a divorce, she would forfeit custody of their son and all marital assets.
Besides,
she added,
his father is a federal judge. In this city, I couldn't win.
I finally understood the mask she wore. It wasn't an act, it was armor. The lingerie at the party. I began. Her eyes hardened.
He installed spyware on my phone. He saw the photos from Lake Geneva.
Her fingers unconsciously went to her wrist.
He enjoys it, public humiliation, seeing if he can finally break me. I'm divorcing him,
she said, her voice ringing with newfound resolve.
Whatever it costs.
I looked up stunned. Her eyes were blazing.
I told him last night, after the party.
She went on.
He refused, of course we argued.
She gestured to the fresh mark on her wrist.
But this time, I recorded it. Everything. Including him admitting to what he has done all these years.
My heart hammered in my chest. Is that enough?
I don't know, but it is a start.
She took a deep breath.
Jake is only 10. I don't know how he'll handle this.
I reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away.
He'll understand. No kid wants to see his mom get hurt.
Her eyes welled up.
Leo, I'm not who you think I am. I'm weak. I was a coward for so long.
No.
I cut her off.
You're the strongest person I've ever met.
Tears finally streamed down her face. All the walls came down, and she sobbed like a heartbroken child. I moved to her side of the booth and wrapped my arms around her.
I love you.
I whispered into her hair.
Not just the fantasy. All of it. The broken parts, too.
She looked up at me, her eyes red but clear.
I know.
She whispered back.
That is why.
She didn't need to finish. We spent the afternoon planning. She would file for a restraining order, then the divorce, using a lawyer from out of state to bypass Richard's influence.
What about the office?
I asked. A sad smile touched her lips.
Harrison gave me an ultimatum this morning. Either I withdraw from the promotion consideration, or you get fired.
That is bullshit!
I chose the promotion.
She said quietly.
Your career is just starting. I won't let you throw it away.
Looking at her, my own decision became crystal clear. No, I'm quitting.
What?
A friend from college has a startup in Austin. He has been trying to get me to move for a year. The words tumbled out before I could second-guess them.
It is time. If one of us has to go, it is me. You've earned your place there.
We argued, but she finally relented. As we left the coffee shop, she pointed to a black sedan parked across the street.
He has people watching me.
She handed me an old-school flip phone.
Burner, my number's in it.
Just then, her smartphone rang. She answered, and her face went white.
It is Jake's teacher.
She listened for a moment, her body trembling.
Jake wasn't there when she went to pick him up. He ran out of the school. An e-scooter hit him. He is at the hospital.
I'll take you,
I said, hailing a cab before she could object. At the ER, we found Jake sitting on an examination table, his knee bandaged, his face scraped up. He burst into tears when he saw Jessica.
Mommy?
Oh, baby.
She hugged him tight.
Why did you run off?
I was scared.
He sobbed.
Daddy was yelling at you again last night. I wanted to find you.
Jessica froze, holding him tighter. I stood in the doorway, feeling like an intruder, when a commotion erupted in the hallway. Richard stormed in, flanked by 2 other men. His eyes locked on me.
What the hell are you doing here?
He snarled. Jessica stepped between us.
He brought me, Richard. Jake is fine. He just...
Richard shoved her aside and grabbed my collar.
I told you to stay away from my wife!
Richard, stop.
His fist flew toward my face. I stumbled back, my cheek exploding in pain as my head hit the wall. The taste of blood filled my mouth.
Daddy, no.
Jake's terrified cry stopped everyone cold. The little boy limped over and tugged on his father's arm.
Don't hurt him. Leo's a good guy. He brought Mommy to see me.
Richard stared down at his son.
You know him?
Jake nodded, tears streaming down his face.
I saw his picture on Mommy's phone. She smiles when she looks at it. Mommy doesn't smile like that anymore.
The words hung in the air, devastatingly simple. Jessica covered her mouth, a silent sob shaking her body. Richard's hand fell from my collar, his expression shifting from rage to a stunned, hollow emptiness.
Let's go home, Richard.
Jessica said softly.
Not in front of our son.
He looked from Jake to me and back to his wife. He scooped up his son and walked out. Jessica gave me one last look, a universe of apology and regret in her eyes, and followed them. I slid down the wall, my cheek throbbing, but my heart strangely calm. Mommy doesn't smile like that anymore. 3 days later, I handed in my resignation. On my last day, as I was packing my desk, Karen walked over.
Leo.
She said, her voice surprisingly gentle.
When I was your age,
She trailed off, then just patted my shoulder and left a box of Band-Aids on my desk.
for your face.
Jessica wasn't there. That night, I got a text on the burner phone. 8 p.m. The Nook. I have news. She walked in looking like a different person. Her hair was cut into a chic, short bob, and she was wearing a vibrant red dress. She looked free.
He agreed
She said, her eyes shining like stars.
to the divorce, and I get full custody of Jake.
I was floored. How?
Jake.
She said, smiling.
After the hospital, Richard asked him why he said what he did. Jake told him. Mommy's stomach hurts when she talks to you on the phone, but she smiles at Leo's picture.
A tear slipped down her cheek.
Richard locked himself in his study all night. The next morning, he agreed to everything.
The price was most of the marital assets.
But I have Jake.
She said.
That is all that matters.
It started to rain outside, a gentle rhythm against the window.
So, Austin is all set.
She asked. I nodded. My flight is on Monday. She looked down.
I'll miss you.
Me, too, I said softly. But this isn't the end, right? She looked up, that familiar fire back in her eyes.
Not even close. As soon as I get things settled here.
I'll wait for you. I promised. However long it takes. We smiled at each other, the fear and uncertainty finally gone. 3 months later, Austin, Texas. I was looking out the window of my new office when my phone buzzed. It was a text. Front desk says I can't come up without an appointment. The new creative director has gotten pretty full of himself. I laughed and ran for the elevator. There, in the lobby, stood Jessica, holding Jake's hand. She was wearing a sharp power suit, her short hair perfectly styled. Jake looked taller. He saw me and shyly hid behind his mother. What are you? I was speechless.
New job.
She said, grinning, and pointed to the skyscraper across the street.
Marketing director for a top ad agency. Today's my first day.
I crouched down to Jake's level. Hey, buddy, remember me? He nodded.
Leo, Mom says you're her special friend.
I looked up at Jessica, who was blushing but holding my gaze. I ruffled Jake's hair. That is right. And I'm hoping I can be your friend, too. Jake considered this seriously.
Will you make my mom smile?
He asked. I looked at Jessica, whose eyes were glistening. I turned back to her son and nodded solemnly. I promise.
Okay, then.
Jake said, sticking out his hand like a tiny businessman.
It is a deal.
I took his small hand in mine, feeling like I was holding my entire future. Jessica stood beside us, beaming, as the bright Texas sun streamed through the atrium, lighting up our new beginning.